Castle Combe in Wiltshire, famous for its old world charm, peace and tranquility. It's got amazing architecture, hotels and bars. And it's a far cry from the last round of the Powertour series held at Rockingham. But there is a connection. Just down the road from here is the circuit, also new to most of the Formula 3 and GT drivers. And you can see how they cope with it here in Motorsport on 4. But first, a quick look back at how the Formula 3s got on at the Rockingham Motor Speedway.
Two new circuits to the Powertour calendar, but there's been racing here at Castle Combe for years, and this section in particular is really going to sort out the men from the boys. It's the fearsome Quarry Corner. The approach is really fast, about 160 miles an hour in a GT car and 140, 145 in an F3, but it's got all the problems a driver hates. Braking on bumps, braking on a bend, and then you're here faced with this blind entry where you can either defend to the inside and not take the ideal line, or take the ideal line to the left and leave the door wide open for passing. I guarantee there'll be action and spills here. But let's have a look from the driver's point of view how Quarry fits in with a complete lap. We're on board the TVR Speed 12 with Michael Kane, who's been fastest in testing for this and is really trying to get pole position. Onto the start of the lap, he comes out really wide, and this is very bumpy on the approach to Folly, the first end, which is taken flat out. Just watch that bonnet bouncing up and down. Approaching Avon Rise, he's trying to pick his braking point just over the bump, staying on the brakes round the corner. This is the tricky section into Quarry. Hold that car in very, very tight and get on the power and let it run out wide. He's only got a short straight with one gear change before he's into the S's. He clatters over the inside. There are no posts there now, but they will be for the race. They've already been knocked out. And accelerating out is really difficult round Old Paddock. He has to lift midway through the corner. And now it's down, hammer down on the approach to Tower, which is really hard on the brakes. Only the brave will get through on the inside here. It's off camber, the car's sliding out, a little bit too early on the throttle and it'll really move, and into Bobby's, bang over the curb, a dip in the middle there and accelerating out again. Really hard corner that. Up onto the final path, and this is probably the best overtaking point into the last corner at Camp. This is a very good lap, and he's catching up on Marcos, which hopefully won't spoil it. Will he get across the line? Yes, he does.
There was no Tim Sprouge at Croft and no Ryan DL at Rockingham. You don't normally expect to have driver changes halfway through the season in Formula 3, but this year seems to be an exception. Now we've also lost Nicolas Kiesa. So what is going on at Prost?
The Prost team had a dreadful time at Rockingham, with Ryan DL's teammate Nicolas Kiesa not qualifying for the first race and retiring from the second. It was a long way from his maiden victory at Donington Park last year, when team boss Francesco Rivera was ecstatically happy. He has plans to return with new drivers in the near future. DL, meanwhile, was pleased to be driving for the new Duma team, run by Hugh Oliver Bellisis.
Yeah, obviously I had a split with my old team. I've not tested much with Duma, but I've secured a deal for the rest of the season, and so far things are looking pretty good.
This game's all about how well you set the cars up, and so much easier if you've got a second set of data. You can do different things to the other car and then bounce the one off the other, and you're getting double the time.
While Duma doubled up, Avanti was down to one driver as Milos Pavlovich had run out of cash. Tim Spouge's seat with Menu Motorsport was filled by F3 veteran Ben Collins at Rockingham, and he was greeted with drama at the chicane.
I suppose I'd always want to be a pilot, and I finally got my chance to fly for about 6 seconds
So I don't know, I hit one of the curbs at about 140, I think, and that seemed to upset it. And then it sort of went north quite quickly, but the landing was okay. So still we finished the race, but it wasn't ideal because it did damage the car a bit.
Now committed to sports car racing, Ben's role at Menu Motorsport is more about helping teammate Rob Austin than re-establishing his Formula 3 career.
In qualifying, the Duma team provided the best possible justification for running a second driver. After 6 minutes, Benz and DL topped the chart. Not for long, however, as the Carlin and Jaguar teams asserted their dominance. At the end of the session, though, Duma was still best of the rest, but it was the new boy, not Jamie Spence, who was in 5th position.
It's a good start to the season, or the second part of the season for me, but no, it's something to build on.
For the top teams, Sato and Lotterer won their private family battles. Takuma on pole and André third.
Many congratulations on another pole position.
Yeah, thanks. It's obviously the road temperature is coming really high now, and then you can do only one lap, really.
The scholarship drivers had their own separate 20-minute qualifying session, which saw series leader Matthew Gilmore dominant. Then at the last moment, when Gilmore had stepped out of the car, Robert Doornbos went quicker by 7/1000ths of a second. Robbie Kerr has won the last 3 races and had an excuse for only qualifying 3rd at Castle Combe.
Robbie, what happened?
Had a little bit of coming together with someone. I'm not quite sure what happened yet, but we're going to go through it and have a word about it all, but we'll see.
So in the championship class, Ryan DL lined up behind Carlin and Jaguar, 7 places better than his average at Frost. Derek Hayes was back in 6th.
Behind Doornbos, Gilmore and Kerr, Inani Judas took 4th in scholarship, Partiva Sureswaran 5th, Mark Mail in 6th.
It may be a new circuit, but the front of the grid has a very familiar look to it. The 2 Carlins head up the field, and the 2 Jaguars are right behind. Will the race be as synchronised? Martin and Ben have the answer.
It's a beautiful summer's day for the first ever Power Tour meeting at Castle Combe. The car parks are overflowing. Let's hope the racing matches up to expectations.
Well, a lot of young drivers, very few of them will ever have raced here before. Away they go from the lights. Sato on the left, Davidson on the right. Lotterer pulls out left as Courtney gets a good start, but around him comes Derek Hayes on board with Ryan DL. Right behind Courtney in the Jaguar and Hayes, and there's Bruce Giuani coming up the inside. Great start by Giuani, the yellow car, and he's got his teammate Atsushi Katsumata right behind, and Katsumata dives in front of DL. On board with Matt Davis, running down to the S's. He started in 12th place. Gianmaria Bruni ahead. He's coming down on the inside line. Oh, little weave there. Don't know if he got hit from behind or lost it under braking.
Oh, look at that. One of those plastic posts has gone for a Burton. Tim told us about those earlier on. Oh, and Michael Keohan's got some damage to the front, and he's off onto the grass on the exit on through Hammerdown, and now he's back on the other side.
It looked like he was having a bit of a wheel-to-wheel tussle with Inani Judas there, and there is Judas, the Brazilian, off on the grass. Sato, Davidson, then Hayes in 3rd place, and look at this, Davidson down the inside. Great move as he comes across out of Camp Corner onto the start-finish line. Tim Harvey said that was one of the best overtaking places on the track, and Davidson proves it at the end of lap 1. Sato's lead didn't go that far as Keohan pulls out of the race.
Disappointment for him, but what about that move from Davidson? He made it look so easy getting past Takuma Sato, and he's now in charge. And look at James Courtney attacking Derek Hayes for 3rd.
Mistake by Derek Hayes. Now, don't forget, we saw this when we were at Croft. Takuma Sato pressuring Hayes into a mistake. He went for a move, perhaps a little too early. Let's hope Courtney can bide his time a little better. Bruce Giuani is in 5th place, and Ryan DL here is in 9th, accelerating out of Old Paddock down towards Tower. And he'll be disappointed with 5th place on the grid, converting itself into 9th on the first lap. Well, Davidson easing away from Sato, then Hayes, and the Jaguar in 4th place. Mark Taylor in 6th with the 2nd Jaguar behind him of André Lotterer. Further back, the scholarship class being led by Robbie Kerr. Kerr dives out there behind Jeffrey Jones. Now, Ben, let's take a look back at the start and see what happened to Ryan DL.
Well, we know that Ryan DL was starting from 5th position. Here we are, the onboard camera. Just ahead of him, André Lotterer in the Jaguar makes a terrible getaway. DL gets past him safely. James Courtney already slightly ahead, but Derek Hayes coming through. Good start, that's from Hayes, and he slots in ahead of James Courtney. Now, watch out for Giuani. Giuani suddenly appearing on the left there. So does Katsumata. There he is, his teammate. So suddenly DL's down into 7th place. at the first corner at Quarry. Amazingly, they all got through there safely, and that's a bit of a first here at Castle Combe. And Ryan Dalziel still was under pressure as he came into Estes. On the right, André Lotterer on the left, that was Mark Taylor going through, and suddenly Dalziel finding himself down in 9th position. A real disaster. Now we're looking back at what happened at Bobby's on the first lap. Takuma Sato made a great start from 7th, threw it all away, doing a little pirouette in the wheat field and rejoining the fray.
Little rush of blood to the head for the Japanese. This is Brazilian Inani Judiz, nerfed off by Michael Kyohan after they exited the Estes. And Ryan Dalziel coming down once more to Camp Corner, and ahead of him you can see André Lotterer picking up the place from Gianmaria Bruni using the inside line. Great exit by Dalziel though, then he's right behind Gianmaria Bruni, who passed him on lap 2.
Come through the folly, now they're up towards Avon Rising into Quarry, and he's round the outside. Now he's got the ideal line if he can just shut the door on Brody. That was a good job done by Ryan Dalziel, and there is team boss Hugh Oliver Velasquez watching from the Juma pit.
So Sato in 2nd place with Hayes and Courtney 3rd and 4th, then Bruce Giuani ever improving, then in 6th place the black and yellow car of Mark Taylor, who picked up 2 spots in one move here on lap 1. Further back the Alan Docking racing pair, Priaulx and Edwards 14th and 15th, not a good weekend, but Davidson out front, like Priaulx, a race winner, but showing much more pace here, Ben.
He is indeed. Great stuff this from Anthony Davidson. Look at James Courtney sizing up Derek Hayes for the pass down into Camp Corner, and this is where Davidson did it to Sato. Great job. In fact, Courtney gets it completed before they even turn in there.
Well, he really got the speed out of the chicane at Bobby's, and he was all over the back of Derek Hayes, as Bruce Giuani is now. Once more up towards Quarry, over Avon Rise. You go uphill, turn left, break over the bumps. It's a very tricky corner, and as Tim Harvey said, like Derek Hayes did there, you have to cling to the inside if you want to defend. But look at Mark Taylor. He's really having a race with Bruce Giuani as well. Three-way battle for 4th place.
Into the S's, Giuani, Taylor, and look, André Lotterer is right with them as well in the Jaguar, so he wants a piece of that action.
Ryan Dalziel following, and I'm sure he'd like to be involved as well. Now this is very interesting. Takuma Sato, 6 wins out of 9 races, being shown the way home by Anthony Davidson. Davidson's miles away, and Sato is watching his mirrors rather than chasing the driver ahead of him. He's got James Courtney right behind. Courtney's really enjoying this track, a very feisty drive from him.
The Carlin crew holding down 1st and 2nd places, their 2 drivers, but they look a little bit serious about it. Meanwhile, Mark Taylor is in the pit.
Well, that's a big shame for Mark Taylor. He was really running very strongly for Manor Motorsport. Stop and go penalty, Ben.
Jumped the start, apparently. Let's take another look at that start. We're watching Mark Taylor's car. That's the Rings car now. Waiting for them all to get going. Does he creep? Yes, he certainly does creep. And that's the reason that he's just been given the stop and go penalty.
Out at Bobby's, that's Adam Blair from the scholarship class. Tsushi Katsumata went off there. Blair seems rather more enamoured of the cornfield, can't get out. Robbie Kerr leads that class. He's ahead of Alex Gurney, the yellow and blue car. And they're both chasing Jeffrey Jones still, trying to find a way past the American.
Here comes Anthony Davidson on the final lap then. He did have a 7-second lead. He's backed off a little bit, but he's coming through to take a remarkable victory.
Very impressive stuff. His first race at Castle Combe. The team applaud him and Takuma Sato. It's 1-2 for Carlin Motorsport. And look at the gap. The rest are nowhere. James Courtney leading them in 3rd place ahead of Derek Hayes. Bruce Giuani in 5th and André Lotterer in 6th.
In the scholarship class, Robbie Kerr takes the win ahead of Matthew Gilmore, and the poleman, Robert Doornbos, only finishing in 3rd.
And yeah, I went for the move down the inside of this last corner.
That was quite spectacular.
Yeah, that's the first ever time I've had to race against Takuma properly, you know, side by side. And no, I was full respect for him. He let me by, and it's a good teammate to have.
My engine is no acceleration. It's very strange. I thought was some problem. I don't understand why, reason why. So we have to make sure the data later on, and we'll see for the next race.
So the Sato monopoly has at last been broken, but you can be sure teammate Anthony Davidson will want to keep it that way. Find out what happens after the break in the 2nd race.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4 in the sunny Castle Combe in Wiltshire for qualifying for round 14 of the Green Flag British Formula 3 Championship. Just to show, the first session was no flash in the pan. Juma Racing had both drivers in the top 6, but this time it was Jamie Spence who starred.
I think, you know, we're both working for the same thing, and we just went a little bit the wrong way in the first session. and we've just gone back to what we know, and it's obviously worked. It's been great.
Jamie was on pole until late on when Carlin intervened with Anthony Davidson.
It was a really good session for me. It's been a good day, second and a first. So I got in a fantastic rhythm in the last session, and just pulled out two laps that were fast enough to be on pole. So really good.
His teammate's progress to the front was interrupted when he collected a plastic marker post.
Finally, a big contact, and yes, a bit disappointing, but still second low.
Ahead of Sato in third was Derek Hayes, his chief championship rival, and Hayes is still smarting from a run of poor getaways.
Makes good prospects for a good race, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good race, that one. Obviously, he certainly won't be passing me because I need to stay in front of him, championship reasons.
In the scholarship class, normality was resumed. Robbie Kerr on pole for the 9th time this season. Michael Kiehan came to Castle Combe with the same points as Kerr, and in second qualifying improved from 7th to 3rd.
Yeah, we certainly made the car a lot better in the second qualifying to take 3rd, so we're pretty happy with it.
So in the championship class, the 2 Carlin cars and the 2 Juma cars in the top half dozen. James Courtney 4th again, Derek Hayes from 6th to 3rd this time.
For the scholarship class, Brazilian Hernani Judas takes 2nd behind Kerr, with Gilmore, Doornbos and Sherwood lining up behind Kiehan in 3rd.
With all the changes, we've got one new team driver combination on the grid at Castle Combe. Ryan DL signed for Juma Racing. He qualified 5th for the first race and 6th for the second, so it seems to be paying off so far. Ben and Martin have all the details on the race.
Well, for Ryan DL at race 1, it was great qualifying, but not a great getaway. He dropped from 5th down to 9th in 2 laps. He'll be hoping for better this time. And away they go. Davidson leading, and a great start behind from Takuma Sato in 4th place. Tucked in behind Davidson, Spence on the right, Derek Hayes next up. They're all sweeping through. Ooh, a little wide there. Michael Kiehan wobbling over the bumps as they go through Folly. But look at Spence on the outside line.
Really trying to go around the outside of Sato and reclaim that second place, but we know how determined Sato can be. Let's see what happens as they come up towards the S's. Davidson with the advantage. Sato weaving around a little bit behind. Spence driving around the outside of him through the first part of the S's, and still side by side as they come out.
Well, they're 2 or 3 abreast through there. Alex Gurney comes back on off the grass. Somebody's off at the back. Hernani Judas and Michael Kiehan, who clashed just after here on the first lap. Now, Davidson pulling away. Spence in 2nd. Sato 3rd. Courtney in 4th. Hayes 5th. Green car Ryan DL in 6th place, holding his start a little better than in race 1.
Good job again from Davidson, but look at Michael Kiehan. It's been a very poor weekend for him. He was only 1 point off the lead. Let's get back to the leaders, though. Jamie Spence still under a lot of pressure from Takuma Sato, James Courtney and Derek Hayes.
Well, Anthony Davidson really pulled a blinder on Takuma Sato in race 1. He's pulling away here again. Looks as though the Japanese doesn't quite have the answer to it. Of course, he'll never have raced here as a junior driver, but Davidson perhaps with that little initial advantage. Well, whatever it is, he's using it well. Spence, Sato, Courtney pulling away from Hayes. And another marker cone goes flying. Oh, there's one on the nose of Mark Taylor's car. That probably won't be helping him much. Shouldn't hinder him too much. Through Camp Corner they come. Taylor's running wide, though. And he loses the place there to Matt Davis in the orange Team Avanti car. Looks as though he's about to lose another one. Well, Ben, maybe that really is causing him a problem.
Yes, I think Bruce Giovanni was about to go through. We're looking at 2nd, 3rd and 4th going through the shop. Then Derek Hayes in 5th place. Ryan DL doing well. There's Mark Taylor still going wide with that damaged front wing, and he's coming under increasing pressure once again.
Well, I wonder if maybe he's just knocked his nose wing a little askew as well, perhaps knocked it off its mounting pegs. Into the pits comes the Brazilian Hernani Judas. This will be a weekend to forget for him. Safety car has been scrambled. That's probably because of Michael Kiehan's car jammed firmly on its nose out in the grass.
Oh, and that's Robbie Kerr, who's gone off onto the dirt at Bobby's. He was leading the scholarship class, but now he will have lost out to Matt Gilmore thanks to that mistake.
Well, Kiehan was part of that 3-way battle for scholarship honours, but 2 non-finishes here certainly won't have helped him.
Let's take another look at that first lap incident and see if we can find out what happens. Now, battle in the scholarship class. We've got Judas just ahead of Kerr. Kiehan in the blue car coming up behind them into the S's. Now, Judas goes in a little bit wide, then cuts in and made contact with Kiehan. Kiehan hitting the rear wheel of Judas. It just looked to me as though they're all trying to squeeze in not enough space. Robert Doornbos, another of the scholarship class cars, out of this race.
Well, the safety car pulling off, and they're getting ready for the green this time. Anthony Davidson giving it good anticipation through camp, almost approaching the line at racing speed as he leads them through. They do get the green. He's lucky on that one. 12 laps to go, so still plenty of time for Sato to make a move. Jinking over the brow into Quarry behind Jamie Spence, but Spence has got that one covered. And Sato will have to worry about Courtney's Jaguar right behind.
Well, Anthony Davidson, remember, he's still only in his first season of Formula 3. Fantastic performance. You remember that Takuma Sato has now done almost 2 years of Formula 3 racing, yet Davidson's showing him the way to do it at Castle Combe.
Yeah, no longer in Sato's shadow, is he? Leading the way. Spence under pressure from Sato, always a good overtaker. Courtney, Hayes, DL, and there is Lotterer picking up a place from Matt Davis. He's got Bruce Joanny and Mark Taylor right behind. Down to Camp Corner, Anthony Davidson just driving away from the opposition. There is Spence still clear of Sato. And then Sato's going to have to produce something. They clashed at the first race at Silverstone, but that was a long while ago.
Look at this, though. Sato's had a great run out of camp, up Avon Rise into Quarry. He goes for the inside. Classic overtaking here at Castle Combe. And does he do it? Yes, he does. Often you run wide by making that move, but Sato had it all under control.
Well, Jamie Spence gave him a little bit of room to hoist himself by his own petard. If he had run wide, Spence would have been back up the inside, but he held it nicely together. Well-judged move by Sato, and that will be inspiration too for James Courtney, the Aussie, in the Jaguar in 4th place, because having seen that move made on Spence, he will try and make one of his own while Spence is a little bit unsettled.
Yes, Courtney is well placed. They're coming into Bobby's now, but I don't know if he's quite close enough. Meanwhile, Davidson, of course, will now glance in his mirror, see that it's Sato, not Spence behind him. That puts the pressure on the young Englishman.
Well, he'll have to get the hammer down as Sato breaks free from this third battle and chases after him. Jamie Spence still under pressure, and look, James Courtney seems to have better speed as well than the Duma racing car, and he's sizing him up, but Spence is wise to this one. He'll make him go the long way round the outside if he can.
James Courtney goes up the inside into Quarry. That was great stuff, and we thought Spence had defended now. Is he going to go wide? No, he doesn't. So he does a great job of moving into 3rd place. And Courtney, of course, out of Formula Ford, much like Anthony Davidson. It seems to be suiting their style here at Castle Combe.
Yes, it's a tight and twisty circuit, plenty of action all the way down the order. And here's the battle for last place. Partiva Sourishwaran passing Adam Blair, running wide, both of them though. Ooh, that'll hurt. And that's a bit of a replica of Jamie Spence's move. Ben, I'm surprised he was caught out twice.
Yes, Jamie Spence left the door open into Quarry. It is a classic overtaking place, and Sato said thank you very much and didn't run wide on the exit.
Well, here is Matt Davis. He's in 8th place. Mark Taylor dives down the inside, but look, Davis fights back, and that's exactly what we've been hoping to see from Jamie Spence. Wheel-to-wheel stuff all the way through. Down into the SS. Taylor just had his wheel in front, and that gave him the line.
Yes, that move was completed there at the next corner. They started at Quarry, and it was completed at the SS. Good move from Mark Taylor.
P1 for Anthony Davidson. Well, it didn't say P2 for Takuma Sato. I think he gets the message. 3 seconds back, he can see his teammate and rival out front, but he can't do much about it. Well, this is great stuff for Carlin. Once more, the team is on top, but interestingly, Davidson leading Takuma Sato in a fair fight head-to-head. Of course, he had one earlier in the season at Croft, but that was really only after Sato tangled with Derek Hayes, and they were both effectively out of the running.
And don't forget, Martin, that Anthony Davidson was voted the McLaren Autosport Young Driver of last year. He won the Formula Ford Festival. The only young drivers who've made it into Formula 1 so far is David Coulthard, and I wonder if we're going to see Anthony Davidson making similar progress over the next few years.
Well, the tricky confines here can't be too much of a problem to him. He won around the streets of Po earlier in the month, and so he is quite clearly capable of keeping his car on the island wherever he needs to, and he does it again. Victory number 2 at Castle Combe for Anthony Davidson, and once more 1-2 for Carlin. But look at this, a battle all the way to the line. Derek Hayes being chased by André Lotterer for 4th.
Davidson is delighted, as he should be, with 2 victories over Takuma Sato here at Castle Combe. In the scholarship class, Matthew Gilmore coming through to take victory. A couple of championship cars between him and 2nd place man in class, Robbie Kerr.
Well, the same podium in race 2 as race 1, Davidson, Sato and Courtney. Jamie Spence 4th this time, ahead of Derek Hayes and André Lotterer.
In the scholarship class, a reversal of the top 2, with Gilmore coming out on top of Robbie Kerr. Justin Sherwood took 3rd position.
Never imagined I could win both races today. After the beginning on Thursday at the general test day, it's really tough, and I was only 5th. And no, we've just had the pace since qualifying, and to do that to Takuma is just unbelievable. I'm so happy.
Well, Davidson must be looking ahead to the next race on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch, which he claims is his favourite in the world. Look out, Takuma Sato. Here comes Anthony, and third in the points. Derek Hayes dropping away from Sato as he has a bad weekend. Andy Priaulx dropping from third to fifth.
In the scholarship class, still just 1 point separating the top two, Matt Gilmore and Robbie Kerr, but Michael Keohan had a terrible time.
Well then, what about your thoughts on Castle Combe's suitability for Formula 3?
Well, there was a lot of concern about the safety of the circuit before the meeting because of the bumps and because of narrow runoff areas. In fact, the drivers had an extra free practice session on Saturday morning to help them cope with it. In the event, the cars rode the bumps pretty well. You can see the suspension working hard, and in fact, these undulations are nothing compared to some of the American street tracks, where one or two of these drivers might end up racing a champ car in the future. And talking of street tracks, one of the most famous that all of them would love to race at is Monaco. Jamie Spence is one of the more experienced drivers in Formula 3.
Yeah, I think, you know, we can't really complain because obviously we go to Macau and Korea at the end of the year. So, you know, if we was umming and ahhing here, then we definitely wouldn't go there. And that's one race I'm definitely looking forward to.
Big thumbs up for Castle Combe then from the Formula 3 teams, and definitely from us. Let's hope they come back next year.
Well, a great weekend for the Formula 3s. Anthony Davidson has proved that Takuma Sato isn't invincible. Now it's time for GTs. How are they going to cope with the bumps and turns here at Castle Combe? Well, first we're going to take a quick look back at the last round at Rockingham. Rockingham provided a great battle for the lead GT teams, and sadly we've lost a couple of them today, but we've also gained a new Porsche. Will the same be repeated here at Castle Combe? Qualifying's about to take place, and Martin Haven's got the details.
The Tech 9 team's GT2 Porsche suffered a troubled practice session, 4 seconds off the pace as Jonathan Rowland and Ashley Ward struggled to set it up. The Viper team had again missed the test day. Its drivers spent the first qualifying session learning the track, then Rob Wilson ran into engine problems and the car didn't reappear.
It's going to take a little bit of glue and elastoplast, I think, to fix it, but we got some bits coming down from the engine builds. We haven't got a spare engine, but we got some bits coming down, and we'll cobble something together to run tomorrow.
That left the TVR and the Lister to battle for pole position, with Mike Jordan on top until the last minute.
We held on to pole until fairly near the end, and Caney kept doing a slow lap and then putting a fast run in, so it was almost inevitable he was going to pinch it off us at the end.
He's good over the quick bumps, but through the slower stuff, it's not quite as good, but I think we make up for it with our speed down the back straight there.
In GTO, the TVR Tuscans were in fine form. Martin Short putting his new car on pole just ahead of Richard Stanton.
It would be nice to have TVR 1-2. It'd be better for us to be winners, but, you know, either Martin or us doesn't matter, as long as we're first and second.
Very noble of you.
Third place in the first session went to Marino Franchitti's Porsche.
I think we should have been second at least. I got a little bit of traffic on my best lap, but I don't think we were going to catch the TVR.
Everyone expected Kelvin Burt to step up in the afternoon and take back their accustomed pole. It didn't happen.
Kelvin, at the start of the session you were third and you're now fifth. What's happened?
Two people went quicker.
No.
I worked that one out. It took me 30 minutes, but no, we're struggling a little bit, but gives us more work tomorrow.
In fact, it was Ben Devlin who improved most, taking third behind the TVRs.
You must be very pleased with third position.
Yeah, it's not too bad. The only time I done is 15 laps yesterday on a Focus, so
it's quite interesting. Every lap he's getting quicker and quicker learning the circuit, so yeah, it's good. It's nice to be back up the front again with the qualifying.
Another three-way battle in prospect for the GT class. In GTO, the two TVRs and the Viper have to hold off a horde of Porsches. Will they be able to manage it? Find out after the break.
Welcome back to Motorsport on 4 from Castle Combe in Wiltshire. Now this used to be a very fast circuit, and in order to try and slow it down, they've added a couple of chicanes. What they've ended up with is a circuit that's still incredibly fast, but with added twiddly bits. How are the big GT cars going to fare around it? Ben and Martin have the answer.
Added twiddly bits and over 20,000 spectators for the weekend. Beautiful sunshine, perfect, but not perfect for the GTO Viper. Sheared an oil pump drive in the engine, and the team unable to replace it for the start. And they should have been starting on row 3. There's the gap alongside the black and yellow TVR. We're on row 2 with Rob Barth, who's in the pole-sitting GTO car. Lights on the starting gantry go green. 60 minutes of racing gets underway, and the three black GT cars out front thunder away. Riding with Tim Sugden, right ahead Kelvin Burt trying to undo some of the damage that was wrought in qualifying. And that battle for GTO honours right behind the silver GT2 Porsche. And look at the orange car down the inside. Matt Turner going for glory, trying to take the lead of GTO. He's inside the silver Porsche. He's got the lead. Rob Barth in the green and blue TVR in the middle. Three abreast coming down to the first chicane. Ben, this should be fun.
It should be. A little Rob Barth make contact with Matt Turner as they come through the S's, and Barth all sideways gets it together. Great view from Tim Sugden. And look at Kelvin Burt down on the inside.
Yes, takes back 7th place. Cut and thrust up here as David Jones gets onto the grass on the exit of the corner. Leaders stretching away. Matt Turner passing the GT2 Porsche, and down the inside Tim Sugden takes 7th back from Kelvin Burt. David Jones there, he's lost 2 places with that little sideways moment earlier on.
The battle seems to be in the GTOs at the moment. Up front, it's not quite the same battle. Bobby Verden-Rowe has control of this race in the TVR Speed 12. The Viper in second, the Lister Storm in third.
And Matt Turner easing away. The GT2 Porsche is a bit of a stopper for the rest of them. Kelvin Burt now still chasing Tim Sugden. Gets a good drive out of Camp Corner. Look at this, he's almost running into the back of Tin Top Tim. Rob Barth, his next target. There is Barth. He's behind the GT2 Porsche as well. Jonathan Rowland struggling with that car. On board with Sugden now. Down to Quarry, looking for the inside line. No, Kelvin's got it, so Tim will cut in and try and take the inside line on the way out. Can't do that, but they're all queuing up behind this slower silver GT car.
Yes, and now it's trying to defend a little bit in through the S's. Not too much. Kelvin Burt gets through safely, and now Tim Sugden's trying to get past the silver Porsche.
Well, Tim needs to hurry up. Richard Stanton slow away from the grid in the black and yellow TVR. Tuscan R will be chasing him all the way. But look, the GT2 car, Ben, has got more power in a straight line, even though it's not as nimble.
That's right, down into power corner here. Now, you've got to get on the power a little bit early, and there's a possible outbreak into Bobby's chicane. But no, Rowland covers the inside, so there's no opportunity for Sugden to go through. But Rowland's made a little mistake now, surely. Bit of contact from Sugden. Look at the damage to the front of the car, and Stanton's coming around the outside.
Yeah, quite a lot of contact. We didn't really see that from the onboard, but a big ding in the front of the car. And don't forget the radiators of the Porsches all around the nose there. That might have long-term implications. Now, the Viper with the Lister Storm right behind it. The TVR Speed 12 has cleared right off. Fastest on the test day, fastest in qualifying, and with Bobby Verden-Rowe starting it, it doesn't seem to have lost any pace either.
No, he is absolutely flying, and it's magnificent to watch these big cars around Castle Combe. The first time that they visited this track in Wiltshire, and Bobby Verden-Rowe's loving it. Look at him. We're on board with him coming down to Cass Corner. Hard on the brakes down here, and then through this tricky right-hander. Again, you've got to get the power on early onto the next long straight section towards Quarry.
Well, Bobby knows the track really well. He's raced here many times in the TVR Tuscan Challenge and has clearly got everything well sorted out. He needs points, though, because the Viper and the Lister have shared the race wins between them up until last time out, and the TVR is struggling for points. Well, looks as though the Viper is struggling for grip here as well. The Lister pretty well balanced, though, Ben.
Yeah, it looks good, but watch the cars over the bumps, Martin. You can really see them working over the bumps, and that's a feature of this Castle Combe track.
Well, the Porsches also look very softly sprung. Right with Rob Barth now, and let's see if he can make a move for the lead of GTO on Matt Turner. Well, Turner hugging the inside line. Perfect defensive stuff then, but Will he pay the penalty on the outside?
He may well do. Look at this. Rob Barth's had a great exit from Quarry. Now that gives him the inside line into the S's. Perfectly set up. Is he going to do it? Yes. Makes it look very easy, in fact, and that was all as a result of getting out of Quarry well.
Had to kick up the dust on the inside as he made the first apex by about a car's width on the grass. Now Kelvin Burt, third in the GTO class. Similar car, of course, to the Porsche right ahead of him, and struggling to recover some form after he and Marino were both comprehensively outrun in qualifying. Most unusual.
Yes, outrun by the TVRs, but perhaps different under race conditions. Look at this, through Bobby's, using the curves a little bit. Now, has he got a run on Matt Turner as they come down towards camp? We've seen some outbreaking chances here, but I don't think he's quite close enough to go for it. Has a little look, but that wasn't a serious one. And now, as he gets on the power, he may well try to make the move stick as they go to Quarry.
Look at the way that the TVR is starting to pull away from these two, as it is in the lead of the GT field. But we saw from the onboard, everything looked very calm and confident with Kelvin Burt. You could see Turner's car really bumping and bouncing around on the bumps. And looks as though Kelvin again looking at Quarry to get a tight run on the inside line.
Yes, Matt Turner takes that slightly strange line into Quarry, and he's losing out on the exit as a result. Kelvin took advantage of that and slipped through.
So Kelvin Burt moves up to second. Tim Sugden under pressure here. This is for fifth in the class. Sean Valve looking inside at Camp Corner. Shouting at him over the pit wall, the Paragon team, and to good effect. He takes fifth place. That's eighth place overall.
Well done, Sean. Good Sean. Well done. I get your head down and get away from him.
Let's take a look at the TVR through Folly. Very, very fast section, up to about 160 miles an hour. Look at the sparks coming up from underneath. That is where it hits the bigger bumps.
Scary stuff, but it looks as though Bobby Burden-Rowe is well in control here. Now the question will be how quickly he can knife his way through the back markers. Camp Corner again, despite his speed and power, takes a tighter line. That's bigger tyres, better aerodynamics. Starting to work his way through the Marcus Mantises, but he will have to be careful. He's the first of the leaders that they'll have negotiated.
Naughty boy flag being handed out to Rob Barth and Jonathan Rowland. Now we're on board here with Rob Barth, coming down towards Camp Corner, up behind the new Lotus of Nick May and the Marcus of Andrew Davis. Trying to get through at Camp Corner. It's all a little bit tight through there, but he's got past the Lotus safely, and he's got Kelvin Burt right behind him. Look at this. This is the battle for the GTO class lead.
Well, Kelvin's really used the back markers to his advantage there. They were holding up the Tuscanar, no question about it. On the brakes is Barth. Kelvin Burt changes down behind him, and good racing line there, defensive use of the road, not hard up against the grass, so he's got some speed on the exit. I think that's where Matt Turner was going wrong. Now can Kelvin Burt get better drive out of this tight chicane? With the engine hanging out the back, he should have better traction.
Meanwhile, down in the pits, Martin Short keeping an eye on things as Rob Barth has that GTO class lead, and we've got some pit stops happening.
Well, very busy indeed. In comes the Viper. Right behind it was the Lister Storm. Looks as though they were a little bit taken by surprise. Out gets Dave Warnock. In gets Mike Jordan from the car that was in third place. The Viper, of course, Tim Harvey will take over, was in second spot. They're ready to go. Off goes Tim now. A race in the pit lane and a slow change from the Lister team. Very unusual. They're having trouble with the belts. And the Viper does get out, but a long way ahead as well.
Oh, that's disappointing indeed for the Lister Storm, and Lawrence Pierce will be furious after that slow stop.
Gavin Pickering's Porsche off at Tower. Rob Schill won't get a drive this weekend either. Rob Wilson in replay going past Gavin Pickering. Looks as though Gavin just lost it because he was distracted by the Viper.
Yes, not a particularly hard impact, but it takes him out. Meanwhile, Martin Short demonstrates his patent way of keeping a cool head.
I bet it's a lot wetter than that when he's sweated into it during the stint, and he might well be sweating because the lead for GTO being fought out between his car and that of Kelvin Burt and Marino Franchitti. Of course, Rob Barth still holding on to this advantage, and it looked as though the Tuscanar... Oh, problems for the Tuscanar. That's a big explosion of flame from under the car. Oh, what dramas. And he was pouring oil onto the car and onto the track. That looks like a major blow-up.
Oh, that is so disappointing. They were looking for their first victory in the GTO class with this new Tuscanar, and the disappointment amongst the Mole Valley team, well, you just can't describe it, can you? And poor Martin's not going to get out in the car at all.
Tim Harvey in the Viper unlaps himself as the leader comes into the pits. Bobby Burden-Rowe handing over to Michael Caine, and the Tuscanar as well. Richard Stanton dragged out, Steve Hyde shoved in. Bobby plugging in Michael Caine's radio. Oh, the door won't close on the TVR. Come on, come on, come on. Valuable time is wasting. Yes, it's locked now and away they go. Bobby will be very upset with that.
The TVRs leave in the same order as they came in, and Kelvin Burt now leads the race.
You hear it miss every now and again. Can't steer on the straight, especially.
No, Bobby definitely a bit worried about the engine.
Well, that may play into the hands of Viper driver Tim Harvey. He's chasing Jonathan Rowland in the GT Porsche, and they go past the stricken TVR of Rob Bath. So one TVR has already gone out with engine failure. Sounds as though the Speed 12 is a little sick as well.
Charlotte Osborne in the Marcos just leading this little group, and down the inside here comes Tim Harvey. Oh no, he doesn't. Off he goes and into the tyre barrier. Oh dear, that looks like the end of the race for Tim Harvey.
Well, it does. Very unusual accident. Tim Harvey making a mistake there, was he? Anyway, the Lister Storm will be the car that benefits now from that one, with the Viper out of the race and potentially a problem for the Speed 12. Well, Tim Harvey will be very disappointed with that. He's taken over the car in a strong position. In is Kelvin Burt from second overall, handing over to Marino Franchitti. And this is a bizarre-looking pit stop. What on earth is going on here? Up on the air jacks? And they're saying, no, kill it. And it is. It's damaged at the front. They've lost water from the radiators.
We're not quite sure at the moment. We've got some damage to the front radiator. We just can't chance it. It's going to lose the water and boil.
And then, of course, blow the engine. Well, Marino Franchitti stomping off, not at all happy with that. Amanda's with Bobby.
Bobby, well, it was hot out there.
It was fairly warm, to say the least, but I sort of took it relatively easy. But I mean relatively, to sort of help save the tyres. I could see I was pulling away. But towards the end, got a slight misfire. Oh, safety car, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I could scream.
Now, this does seem that you are jinxed when you have a good, strong lead that a safety car comes out.
Yeah, you can say that again. Well, there we go. We had a 28-second lead and we don't anymore. And obviously, if this misfire gets worse, we're in trouble.
Thanks, Bobby.
Okay.
Wow, tough break, Ben, and here's why.
Tim Harvey coming down, trying to lap. Oh, and he just hit Charlotte Osborne's Marcos, and that looked like a mistake, pure and simple, from Tim. He thought he was further ahead than he was and took himself out with that collision.
Safety car lights out, ready to go racing. Oh no, he's continuing round. He's missed the entry to the pit lane. Oh dear. Away he goes. I think they are going green this time. Certainly looks as though Michael Caine's not going to chance it. He's got his foot down. Now let's see how far back in the queue the Lister Storm is. Oh, about 10 cars. And then half of them GTO front runners. This is going to be a big pressure job for Mike Jordan to get through them all.
Well, he knows that he can't afford to waste time here, and he's getting past as many as possible. Watch him up into Quarry. He's right behind Steve Hyde there and squeezing past the Tuscan R.
Oh, taking no prisoners at all. Michael Caine leading. Shane Lynch in the Marcus, 3 laps down. Paul Matfield in the blue and white Porsche. He's 2 laps down in 8th place. Robert Ross in the Lotus. And then Mark Sumter, then the Lister and the Tuscan R. Tuscan R is in 4th place overall, but still being lapped by the leader.
Mike Jordan's really cutting his way through these cars. Now let's watch down towards Tower. He takes Paul Matfield, gets past Shane Lynch easily into Tower Court. Look at the Lotus all over the place in front of him, and he's still trying to sort it out. Wow, that went on for ages, and finally it does get sorted out.
Mother and father of all tank slappers, and you heard how much he backed off the throttle, hard on the brakes, saying, no, make your mind up. Let's have a look again from the outside. Lotus just getting on too much power. And there it goes.
Yeah, Robert Ross, that was driving the Lotus, and he just got a bit too carried away, and thankfully it didn't take out the Lister.
Well, we're laughing, but that Ben could have been such a dramatic moment. The Lister could have been knocked off the track through no fault of its own.
Absolutely. Well, back with the battle, and Sumter, the reigning champion, leading Steve Hyde, and this is the battle in the GTO class. Here comes Steve. Oh, nearly got down the inside into Tower.
I thought we were up for contact there. That was very close indeed, and I think Steve Hyde just reined it back in. TVR teammate, if you like, Bobby Burden-Ray, watching for the progress of the Speed 12. Michael Caine has now been caught by Mike Jordan, and the 2 ex-TVR Tuscan champions battling with each other under braking as they come to Quarry.
4 times this year, TVR's lost a healthy lead due to the safety car. Only once have they held on to take the win, last time out at Rockingham.
Well, tough breaks for the TVR. Oh, and Neil Woodford goes off. So too does Godfrey Jones, sharing a Porsche with twin brother David. And the Ferrari looks as though it may be stationary for a while. Godfrey rallycrosses back on. The GTO battle once more. Sumter with Hyde now behind him, looking to the inside line. Great move by Steve Hyde. Took the bull by the horns there into Tower.
Well, Amanda is with Steve's teammate in the pits, Richard Stanton.
Well, looks like it's all coming together.
It is, yeah. Oh. So I'm a bit speechless, yeah.
Did you think it was ever going to be like this?
No. No. I'll have a chat to you in a minute when he finishes.
There is the sound of chickens not being counted before they're hatched. And probably a good thing too, bearing in mind what's happening in the lead battle as well. Could be a double top for Blackpool manufacturer TVR, but the Lister team have other thoughts. The Lister crew watching as they go across the line, and Mike Jordan closer than ever. He looks like he's lining up Michael Caine this time as they come up to quarry. He's inside him, he's got him. Jordan takes the lead for the Lister Storm team. They'll be happy with that.
Lawrence?
Don't do that. We don't do that. Excuse me.
You don't do what, Lawrence?
Shout. Only I shout.
Language, Timothy. Well, Ben, let's have a look at what they were shouting about.
Mike Jordan on board with him as he made the move on Michael Caine. Caine came over a little bit and then left the door open, and it's tricky up here. It's so fast on the bump. Mike Jordan was very brave to go down the inside there. Impressive stuff to take the lead.
Yes, I think Lawrence Pierce will be very pleased indeed with that, and he should be. The Lister on its way to a 4th victory this year. 2 second places and a 3rd as well. Fast, consistent, it's a winning car and a winning combination. Mike Jordan out of camp corner for the final time, and the checkered flag awaits him.
Great stuff, but second place for the Speed 12 TVR. But good news for TVR, the Tuscan are winning in the GTO class. The first time Porsches haven't won that class this year.
Another grand day out for Lister and for the crowd. Perfect sunshine, great racing, victory for the Lister. TVR will be disappointed with 2nd for the Speed 12, but delighted with GTO victory in 3rd place for the Tuscan R, ahead of the swarm of Porsches. But the man of the match, probably Mike Jordan.
In mid-race then, that was a pace car, because I was taking about a second out of Caney before it, but no, it wasn't enough to get back to him. But oh, those lovely people in race control and that pace car, I saw that, I thought that'll do.
You're here with no one to talk to.
Yep. Apart from you guys.
Apart from us. Now tell me, you must be gutted.
Yeah. To say the least, that was probably the hardest race I've ever done in the car. But up until the safety car came out, plus 30, the engine had got a misfire, but it was over sort of 4,500 revs. So I think there was something crazy like 30 seconds ahead. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. But good old safety car came out. There we go. We'll live to fight another day, but at least I think we were the quickest car around here today, but without the problems we may have won it.
Yeah, I'd heard there were a few funny noises in the car before I got in. I didn't realise he meant there was a misfire if you revved it a lot, but we just got on with it.
Lister drawing away at the top of the GT standings, but the TVR team will have to put a hitman contract on the safety car driver.
In GTO, Burt and Franchitti still lead the standings, but all the Porsches are watching out for Richard Stanton and Steve Hyde in that TVR Tuscan R.
So a fantastic day's racing at Castle Combe, and no doubt the 25,000 strong crowd over the weekend also enjoyed it. Next up on the Powertour calendar is Brands Hatch and the Grand Prix circuit, and you can see all the action there in Motorsport on 4 in a couple of weeks.
For the latest motorsport news and details of Channel 4's coverage, go to 4cars.co.uk. Next Saturday at around this time, it'll be live cricket with the Ashes. Coming up, it's a double Big Brother. Bubble or Pole, you tell me, sure you decide.